So what are Section 2229 waivers in California legislation? Well, sometimes if you're looking at bills that affect the California Revenue and Taxation Code, you might come across this provision near the end of a bill. Notwithstanding Section 2229 of the Revenue and Taxation Code, no appropriation is made by this act, and the state shall not reimburse any local agency for any property tax revenues lost by it pursuant to this act. What's the purpose and meaning of this language? If you look at Revenue and Taxation Code Section 2229, you'll see that it requires the state to reimburse any classification or exemption of property for purposes of ad valorem property tax enacted by the legislature. As a result, the language would be included in a bill that provides a classification or exemption from the imposition of the property tax. And the language I read to you is a disclaimer language that reimbursement of lost revenues to local agencies would not be required. So pursuant to section 2229 of the CRTC, the Revenue Tax Code, the reimbursement must be made when funds have been appropriated by the legislature. In addition, the legislative analyst is required to review any classification or exemption of property to which this section is applicable and must report to the legislature on its general economic effects. This report must be submitted at least 1 year prior to the date on which the classification or exemption is scheduled to terminate. So when a bill proposes a classification or exemption from the property tax, the bill can remain silent, in which case the legislature must reimburse local governments for any lost revenues attributable to that property tax exemption. On the other hand, if the legislature does not want to reimburse local governments for their loss of revenue, then the bill has to include the disclaimer language.